Hi everyone, my name is Matt McCarthy. I'm a research scientist at Oak Ridge National Lab. Together with my colleague David Hughes and others at Oak Ridge, we've developed several automated algorithms to counter illicit maritime activity with an emphasis on maritime coastal smuggling. In many areas of the world lack the capacity to efficiently or effectively interdict coastal smuggling, either because they're too large, too remote, or they're too poorly monitored with technology like radar to help tip and cue for in-person investigation of suspicious activity. One such region is the Puntland coast in Somalia, or the northern coast, which is known to be a haven for coastal smuggling. For the more common types of vessels that engage in activity here are Iranian-style dhows, which were the target of this investigation because they've known to be interdicted more or less regularly involved in the smuggling activity. But we had to distinguish them from Indian-style dhows, which are very similar but slightly different size. And there are also many small boats, kind of like pangas or fast boats, and we had to distinguish again commercial tankers. Now, we initially investigated AIS data for this kind of work, and as you may imagine, a lot of these vessels either do not have AIS or turn them off selectively, so this became a dark vessel problem. We then investigated a number of different data sources that we might be able to use for this kind of work, and we found that we were best able to answer our objectives by using Worldview 2 and Worldview 3 data alone to avoid issues with multi-temporal data fusion incompatibilities. So the goal then was to develop a remote sensing protocol for coastal interdiction. Objective 1 was to detect all vessels in the area, including dark vessels, mapping them along the coast and classifying them by size. Objective 2 then was to further identify likely beaching areas, so not just identify where vessels congregate, as many of them congregate along ports, which we know may not be involved in illicit activity, but to identify deeper water close to shore, so mapping bathymetry, where these deeper drafted vessels may want to get closer to the shore for transfer, and then also identify flat coastal terrain by mapping elevation, because we suspect that overland transport would be best conserved in flatter coastal areas as opposed to steep-sided cliff areas. We then wanted to visually identify potential transfer locations for evidence that we would then notify local authorities to go and investigate. So for our dark vessel detection algorithm, it was a fully automated algorithm run on 20 Worldview satellite images at about 50 seconds per image. We found 41 vessels throughout the 175-kilometer stretch of coastline. Validation found 35 of them were indeed vessels, accuracy of 85%. We then further classified them by size, and you can see in the bottom left, the largest histogram plot there is the Iranian-style dhows that we were specifically looking for. We can see an example here of the satellite image on the top showing vessels moored off the port of Sasso. And on the bottom you see our mapping effort where we map vessels according to size based on color, with the white vessels being Iranian-style dhows. The boxes indicate they were indeed validated. If we zoom in a little bit, we can see how the 2-meter resolution of Worldview was able to pick out the details of these vessels and then distinguish between the larger and the smaller vessels of interest. So our next goal then was to map total bathymetry. So we used Worldview data again, and so for bathymetry we mapped using a band ratio approach where we can use a single image alone with no validation data, no in-situ data, map bathymetry down to a depth of about 15 meters. As you can see in the inset on the upper left, we identified an example of an area where in teal there's a slightly deeper cut through the shallow sandbars that we hypothesized may be the kind of thing that dhows would look for to get closer to shore. On the right we have a digital elevation model and its slope derived from it. We use 2D epipolar reconstruction, so 2 satellite images viewing the same location from 2 different angles to generate a digital surface model. Deriving slope, which is shown in blue shades with flatter terrain, where we again hypothesize vehicles would likely prefer those areas, including dried riverbeds in this area, which may be good overland transport routes. Using these combination of maps, we identified this potential location along the coast, shown in a panchromatic Worldview image at a half-meter resolution. And you can see we've highlighted several small boats, which were identified in our research along with some other boats that are offshore congregating in this area, and an inlet adjacent to a dried riverbed. We also found with the arrows pointing to evidence of traffic, which could be foot traffic or vehicle traffic. And again, we hypothesize that this could be a transfer point. So this work is currently being considered for publication, but if you'd like to talk more, please visit my colleagues in the Oak Ridge National Lab booth. Thank you.